Miss Evans, you have the floor to present us the report now.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank my political advisors and the experts that have given me a lot of help in this, and the Secretariat for the work on the report so far. I very much look forward to working with the shadow rapporteurs on the next stages. Unfortunately, it took almost 7 months to get a decision on the sharing of competence between CULT and ITRE on this report. And so I only had just 2 weeks to draft the report, and one of those was a green week, which meant that I couldn't involve the shadow rapporteurs as closely as I would have liked in the writing process. But I nevertheless look forward to working very closely with them from this point onwards. The idea for this report came from an excellent study which was published by STOA in March of last year, and which highlighted the problems that language barriers create in the EU for worker mobility, for cross-border e-commerce, for trade, for public services. But the study shows that while the emergence of new technological advancements do pose problems for the speakers, particularly of lesser spoken languages, they are also the ones that will benefit most from these developments. So language technologies could become a real aid in helping to overcome language barriers. So after looking at this report, I wanted us to take this idea further. And for myself, my own first-hand experience in Wales is where we have a minority language, Welsh, which in many ways is thriving, the Welsh language education system, literature, the music scene, and so on. But in the digital age, minority languages like Welsh fail to compete with widely spoken languages online, and particularly English, of course. People spend so much time in an almost entirely English language digital world. And new technologies like Siri and Alexa are changing the way we live our lives, but are unavailable in minority languages. But it's not just a problem for minority languages, because the problem faces many EU languages. Digital minoritization, it's been called, where a majority language in the real world can be a minority language in the digital world. The STOA report showed that official, widely spoken member state languages like Estonian, Latvian and Lithuanian have the same level of language technology support, or in some instances less support, than minority languages like Welsh and Basque. English is the most widely spoken language online, largely due to the influence of American actors. But 60% of the European population does not speak or use English, and there are large disparities between countries. In Hungary, Spain, Portugal and Bulgaria, for instance, less than 20% of the population speaks English. So it's not just about minority language, it affects all of us. So my report looks at how European Union policies can improve this situation by developing language technologies in smaller languages. And I think it's crucial that we think of technology not as a danger, not as a threat, but a facilitator to address this issue. So the report is divided into 5 parts. Firstly, I look at the obstacles to achieving language equality in the digital age and the gap between well-resourced languages and less resourced languages, which is widening. Then, secondly, there are suggestions for improving the institutional framework for language technology provision, including allocating multilingualism to the portfolio of a commissioner, which I feel is important if we are to improve the way the EU responds to the issues posed by multilingualism. Thirdly, there are recommendations for research policies, such as establishing a large-scale, long-term funding programme for research and development and innovation, the creation of a European language technology platform where we can get information, bring people together, the experts in this area, and a digital language diversity project. The research on language technology is currently dominated by non-European actors, and we need to change this because the Commission could be a trailblazer in research policies in this area. Fourthly, there are recommendations for education policies, so we ensure that the next generation of Europeans can lead the way in this field of language technology, so they develop their understanding and their ability to use them from an early age. And finally, there are recommendations for private companies and public bodies on how they can use language technologies to their benefit, how private companies can gain from having better provisions in tools such as automatic translation, text-to-speech and speech recognition, which can facilitate cross-border trade and improve the currently fragmented digital single market. So at the EU, at member state and at sub-state level, we can use existing technologies to reduce language inequality. So we are dealing with around 80 different languages in Europe, and language inequality is a real problem. But with the right policies, we can develop this and use multilingualism to all our advantage. Thank you, Chair.